Hey everyone. I just wanted to take some time to give my thoughts on this whole Dave Chappelle situation. So before I start though, I want to preface it by saying I'm not usually one to give my opinion on a lot of things that are going on in the world, but things have changed for me. And I remember something someone told me probably 12 years ago. Uh, they said, "You seem so indifferent about everything. Like, do you care about anything? Do you take a stand for anything?" And I thought about that a lot over the past 12 years, and I actually didn't know the answer, but I did. I just didn't want to accept it. So I never really wanted to take a stance on things because I was afraid of what people would think of me based on what I thought. I didn't want people that I worked with to have certain feelings towards me, or I didn't want to be looked down upon, or anything like that. But now I don't care. I'm 40 years old, so it doesn't matter. And I think it's really important to use whatever space I have to express my thoughts and feelings for what I think could be the greater good. Now, on to the topic of the day, or past few days. So I took the time and watched this Dave Chappelle comedy special. And I've seen all the talk about cancel Dave Chappelle. They need to take down the special. So I said, before I make a decision, I should probably watch it. I don't want to just go based on what people are saying or like little snippets or clips. And my overall thought is cancel Dave Chappelle. However, Netflix, they can keep it up, take it down, whatever. I don't think that matters. I think it's important for us to be able to have spaces to create whatever content we want to, and you can use whatever platform you like. So whether Netflix shows it or Comedy Central or HBO or whoever wants to put it out, that doesn't matter to me necessarily. I do think the conversation needs to be about the person that's creating the content, not necessarily the platform that supports it, because I don't know that they necessarily support it. I think it's just a part of business, and that's a bigger conversation. But right now, I definitely feel that the messages that Dave Chappelle has put out on his special. I've never watched a special of his before. I've never been a fan. Just not my type of comedy. Um, but I feel that it does a disservice to the Black community and the LGBTQ plus community and the world at large, because something that we don't necessarily think about, and maybe this is just to him or lots of people, but when you say things, although they're supposed to be funny, they're rooted in homophobia, transphobia, as we know, because that's been the greater conversation. But my biggest issue is the way that he speaks about the fact that he mentioned the baby can kill somebody in the Walmart, but then once he makes a statement against the LGBTQ plus community, he needs to be canceled, but he can kill a Black person and it doesn't matter. Um, I don't like that for a lot of different reasons because, as we know, I mean, racism is a large issue, overarching issue for a lot of things that we deal with in our daily lives, including in the LGBTQ plus community, um, which is why I think it's important to have everyone understand that being a Black person is difficult. Being a Black gay person is even more difficult because it's coming from both sides. And you're not really getting support from either side. I'm putting that out there. It's a thing we don't really talk about, but it's something that's important to know. And in the LGBTQ plus community, that movement, as he talked about how, if only Black people could come together and have our movement go somewhere, like the LGBTQ plus community does. But you can't say that it doesn't feel right to hear that, because that LGBTQ plus movement doesn't really include people like me, people that look like me. Again, that's a bigger discussion. We can have it one day. But um, the other thing about the whole comparison of racism versus homophobia and how that is received by the public. I was looking at a Facebook post earlier, and they were discussing this whole Dave Chappelle thing, and one person in that comment said, the reason why racism isn't taken seriously is because the LGBTQ plus issue is a part of their agenda. Racism is not a part of their agenda. I'm smiling because that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And this whole discussion, cis-het black men, wow. I want so much better for you. I want so much better for you. There's no agenda. The media, society does not have an agenda to turn people gay. It doesn't even make sense. It's not logical. Where do you even get that from? But Dave Chappelle is creating an environment where people can have those discussions because of the way that he expresses his thoughts and feelings on the gay community. And something that really struck me as I was listening to him speak and then looking at this conversation on Facebook, it made me think about, I'm 40, I'm grown. That stuff is like water off a duck's back. Like, it doesn't affect me. I'm living my truth and living my best life and all those things that people say. But it makes me think about that little black gay boy that's trying to understand who he is, coming to terms with his sexuality, dealing with the external world, whether his family accepts it or not. And then for someone to say that there's an agenda out there to turn people gay. How do you think that makes him feel when he hears something like that? Something that he is naturally. You're saying that there's people out here trying to make people like that? Something that he's had such a hard time dealing with. It's just, I can't even find the words. Or maybe I'll just say I don't use that type of language. Um, it's tough. It's really tough. And we need to think about our children, our future, when we discuss topics like this. How does that affect them? Really think about that. And in regards to transphobia, I know he joked about it a lot, and he told that story about his friend Daphne. And the first thing, I heard a lot of people say, oh, well, he told this beautiful story about his friend as a trans woman. You know, when he was telling that story, it made me think of those times when a white person says, I'm not racist. I have all these black friends. Just think about that. Just think about that. I'm not going to go on and on and on, but overall, my final thought is Dave Chappelle needs to be canceled. We need to be careful and mindful of the material that we put out to the public. We need to think about how it affects people, how it affects our children, how it affects us as adults. Because everyone is not in the same place as I am or many others where they're accepting of the life that they have. It's hard being a black gay person in this society. You really get the short end of the stick from both sides, as I said before. And we need to stop. When he said gay people are too sensitive, no, we're not sensitive. It's just not funny anymore.